Okay, in this training module, you'll be learning how to drive this EMD-F7 locomotive in Santa Fe livery. The EMD-F7 is a 1,500 horsepower diesel-electric locomotive built between 1949 and 1953. In this F7 formation, there are A-unit and B-unit F7 locomotives. A-unit locomotives are equipped with cabs, and B units are cab-less locomotives that can be added as needed for additional power. More than 2,000 A-unit F7s were produced, and nearly 1,500 B units. These remained in service for many decades, as they were very economical to maintain. When you're ready to begin, climb aboard. Sit in the engineer's seat. Now you'll go through the steps needed to take over this locomotive. Firstly, you will need to set the generator field switch. This needs to be enabled for the throttle to control the power of the train. Set the transition handle to the series parallel setting so the throttle will work correctly. Set the unit selector to match the number of powered vehicles at the front of your train. In this case, set it to 4. Now, the purpose behind this selector is complex, and the exact way it works is beyond the scope of this training module. Simply set it to the correct value when you get into the cab, and it'll do the rest for you. This locomotive requires the reverser handle to be inserted before operation. The reverser determines the direction of travel. Switch the front headlights on. Regardless of the time of day or weather, all locomotives must have their headlights on. Turn the gauge lights on so that you can clearly see the gauges. Ensure the rotaire valve is set to the freight setting. When getting moving, it's worth remembering the following sequence: independent on, auto off, throttle on, independent off. Let's go through that slowly and understand why. First, fully apply the independent brake. Now, this will ensure that regardless of anything else, your train won't move. Next, fully release the automatic brake. This will release the brakes on the rest of the train, but you won't go anywhere because those independent brakes are holding you. Now, apply a small amount of throttle and verify that power is generated. Finally, release the independent brake and you'll start moving. This is a great practice to get used to because it'll help you with 2 key areas. The first is that you verify that the train will take power before you release the brakes. You don't want to find yourself without power and having to hurriedly put the brakes back on. The second is that having power applied as you release the independent brakes ensures that you won't roll backwards. On steeper hill starts, you may even need to start with more power. And this is something you can practice and get used to as you find yourself out on the railroad. Coasting is a method used to efficiently maintain speed and reduce motor stress and maintenance requirements. Come to a stop in the indicated position using the independent brake. Independent brakes apply only to the locomotives in the formation and are much faster to apply and release than the automatic brake, which operates on the entire train. Change direction with a reverser. Then change the junction indicated, either by walking over to it or using the map. Have freight cars coupled, you should slow down using the automatic brake and get the extra braking effort from those freight cars. The automatic brake applies brakes throughout the entire train. Uncouple the cars either by using the external camera or by walking to the cars on foot. That's it for this training module.
In this training module, you will be taken through the operation of this Class 66 locomotive. During this brief introduction, you will be covering the critical driving controls and freight operations. When you're ready, climb aboard to get started. You need to insert the reverser first, and then you can move it forwards to set the direction of travel. Set the headlights to let others around us know this train is operational. The direct brake has 3 positions: apply, hold and release. They're directly affecting the brake cylinder pressure, shown on the left-hand side of the desk or on your HUD under the BC entry. While in the apply state, the brake cylinder or BC gauge will fill, meaning more and more brakes are being applied. Move the handle to the hold position to maintain the same level of braking, and back to the release position to reduce or completely release the brakes. The direct brake is used to apply the brakes only on your locomotive and are faster to apply and release than the main brakes. If you're only running as a light locomotive, as you are now, it's usually quicker to just use these brakes. Now the brakes on this train require us to hold. Now that the brake pipe control is at 5 bar, the brakes will fully release. Watch the brake cylinder or BC gauge to see it gradually reduce to 0, which tells you that the brakes are now fully released and you can move the train. As you apply power, notice the amp bar rising. This is the amount of power being fed into the traction motors. But try to keep this out of the red, as it means you're overpowering the motors and could damage them. Coasting is a method used to officially maintain speed and reduce motor stress and maintenance requirements. Built in London, Ontario, Canada by EMD, the British Rail Class 66 is a 6-axle diesel-electric locomotive, used primarily for freight operations in the UK. Introduced in 1998, the initial order of 250 locomotives was said to be the biggest single order of a locomotive since the era of steam trains. More than 500 Class 66 locomotives were built, with the final one being delivered in 2016. The Class 66 has earned the nickname Shed because of its shed-like pitched roof. Okay, come to a stop using the direct brake now. The freight wagons are behind us, so change direction with the reverser, then change the junction indicated, either by walking over to it or using the map. The junction is correctly aligned, so you can now couple up to the freight. Approach slowly and stop just before the buffers. Don't forget to release the direct brake before you apply power. You can couple and uncouple from either an external camera or on foot. So let's connect the formation using the external camera. Access the external camera. Now couple the locomotive to the freight wagons. Return to the first-person camera. Nice work! Change direction with the reverser and move the train forward into the indicated siding. Remember, you can couple and uncouple from either an external camera or on foot. So let's uncouple from the wagons on foot this time. That concludes this training module.
In this training module, you will be learning to drive this BR182 in Dispolok livery. During this brief introduction, you will cover the critical driving controls and freight operations. When you are ready, climb aboard to get started. Take a seat in the driver's position. This is where you'll be spending most of your time. For this introduction, you will be driving the locomotive a short distance and coupling to a short freight train. Set the headlights to let others around you know this train is operational. There are 3 types of brakes that are used on this locomotive: the direct brake, train brake, and electric brake. The direct brake applies air brakes on just the locomotive and not the wagons. This is used usually within yards for shunting operations. Until you get more familiar with the locomotive, you can ignore this control. The train brake applies air brakes on the locomotive and the wagons together. Under most circumstances, you will slow the train using this control. The electric brake uses traction motors to slow the train down without using the air brakes. You can use this to provide additional braking, such as when you need to manage your speed going down a steep gradient. The locomotive is now ready to go. Release the train brake and use the throttle to apply some power to get moving. Coasting is a method used to efficiently maintain speed and reduce motor speed. Keeping to speed limits is important. If you begin overspeeding, apply a small amount of braking force using the train brake. This locomotive is part of Siemens Eurosprinter family of modular electric locomotives. This class of locomotive has earned the nickname Taurus because of their bull-like strength. The BR-182 is capable of 6,400 kilowatts, that's 8,600 horsepower, and has a top operational speed of 230 kilometers per hour, making this one of the fastest electric locomotives in the world. The freight wagons are behind you. Change direction with the reverser, then change the junction indicated, either by walking over to it or using the map. You can couple and uncouple from either an external camera or on foot. Let's connect the formation using the external camera. Nice work! Change direction with the reverser and move the train forward into the indicated siding. It may take a couple of minutes for the brakes on the entire train to release. You can couple and uncouple from either an external camera or on foot. Uncouple from the wagons on foot this time. Good work! That concludes all the basics of operating this train.